Get off me like that. No.
In this corner, the newcomers. See you tomorrow.
I am here this morning to report some just terribly tragic news. Just after midnight this morning, our 911 communications center received a call from a young man who stated he had just killed his parents. He stated that deputies could find his parents at the house and that he had walked just over a mile away to a church and he would await for deputies to arrive to take him into custody. Deputies responded immediately to both locations, the church and then to a home on out here in the Middleburg area. When deputies arrived to the church, they took 14-year-old Trevor Lee into custody. When almost simultaneously deputies arrived to the address in question, they found two deceased individuals inside, David Lee, 44 years of age, and Brandy Smith, 45 years of age. Both of the deceased appeared to have gunshot wounds. Based upon our preliminary investigation, and we're still very early in this investigation, it appears that there was some sort of domestic argument last night between Trevor Lee and his parents, and that this shooting culminated from that argument. This does appear to be an isolated incident, and we have no further threat to our community at this time.
In the quiet hours after midnight, a teenager walked into a small church in Middleburg, Florida. He did not come for a sermon, and the pews sat empty. The night air was still, the streets deserted, and the only light came from the building's front entry. Inside, he asked a simple question: could he use their phone? The request was granted without hesitation. Moments later, he dialed a number that would set a chain of events into motion, drawing law enforcement to an otherwise ordinary neighborhood. The call was brief at first, but it was enough to send deputies toward a single-family home near Silver Point and County Road 220. The house sat dark, its windows closed against a humid August night. From the outside, nothing appeared unusual. Deputies approached cautiously, their arrival breaking the stillness of the early morning. Doors were checked. Lights came on, and soon, the quiet street filled with flashing blue and red. Inside the home, what they discovered would turn a private address into a sealed crime scene. Evidence was marked. Items were photographed. A weapon was secured. Back at the church, the boy who had made the call waited without resistance. He spoke little, his earlier words to dispatch already recorded. By sunrise, the events of the night had become the subject of an active investigation. Detectives began piecing together a timeline, interviewing those who knew the family, and collecting the details that would eventually be presented in court. For now, the public only knew that a 14-year-old was in custody, 2 people were dead, and the community was asking how such events could unfold between the fading of one day and the first light of the next. If you enjoy real crime stories that uncover the truth, don't forget to subscribe. Your support helps us share real cases, spread awareness, and give a voice to those who can't speak for themselves. Before we begin, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from? And what are your thoughts as the story unfolds? Welcome to True Crime Uncovered, where we examine the cases that shake communities and expose what happens behind closed doors. Real stories, real people, real impact. Subscribe now and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Available reports do not specify David Lee's occupation, community role, or hobbies. Authorities have not released details pointing to any prior domestic incidents or concerns. No neighbors or colleagues have publicly noted unusual behavior or changes in his conduct in the weeks leading up to the incident. Nothing suggests a pre-existing pattern of conflict or decline. Similarly, Brandy's career, public presence, or involvement in community activities have not been disclosed. Friends, neighbors, or acquaintances have not come forward with observations of stress or emotional strain. No reports have surfaced regarding her demeanor or state of mind prior to the incident. The family structure, birth order, daily routines, schooling schedules, disciplinary practices, has not been detailed by officials. Reporters noted Trevor's academic standing. A cousin of Brandy referred to him as a good kid and straight-A student. indicating he was academically capable, https://www.TV. No information has been released regarding any changes in Trevor's behavior, mental state, or signs of conflict at home. School records or disciplinary data remain undisclosed. No mention of academic issues or behavioral concern has appeared in public records or news outlets. What might have been unfolding behind closed doors that neither the academic environment nor the community noticed? Trevor is characterized by one family member as a strong student, earning straight A grades, https://www.kjns.tv. The news and law enforcement have yet to report on his broader social circle or involvement in extracurricular activities, such as sports or clubs. There is no information available about disciplinary records, school referrals, or counseling visits. Mental health history, including therapy, diagnosis, or support, has not been released. Sheriff Michelle Cook indicated that Trevor's school and mental health background are subject to the ongoing investigation, but no specifics have been made public. WKMG. Reports from teachers, coaches, or peers about stress, mood shifts, or isolation have not been published. However, his close friendship with Kyrie Beeman provides limited insight. Beeman, described as Trevor's best friend, said the Lees were probably one of the best families I knew, and that they treated her like a son. CBS News, First Coast News. This paints a picture of a formed, stable social link outside the immediate family. No interviews or statements indicate whether Trevor discussed or hinted at argument at home, or if others detected a buildup of tension. Beeman expressed shock, suggesting no prior warning signs were visible. They were probably the best or one of the best families I knew. CBS News. Could any subtle warning signs, if present, have been overlooked or misread by those around him? Expand on each section. Cross-reference the straight A report and note that no extracurricular or disciplinary info is available. Highlight that the sheriff specifically said institutional background is under review, yet nothing has been disclosed. Emphasize lack of behavioral red flags noted in media. Pose further probing questions at transition, such as, if no conflict was visible at school, where did this tension manifest? Or could academic excellence mask internal struggles? Trevor's academic record stands out, yet in absence of documentation, it's unknown whether he participated in sports, clubs, or community programs. The only reference to his school performance comes from a relative's description. No official confirmation exists. The sheriff's office has initiated inquiries into his school and mental health history, reflecting investigative diligence, though no records have yet been released. It remains unclear whether Trevor ever entered counseling or had conversations with educators regarding emotional struggles. No reports cite disciplinary infractions, suspensions, or behavioral flags noted by school administrators. Trevor's scholastic success may obscure unseen internal challenges or dynamics not visible to teachers or peers. Insights into Trevor's demeanor are limited to his friendship with Kyrie Beeman. That friendship appeared healthy and stable, and Beeman's admiration for the family reinforces the outward normalcy. Beeman's surprise speaks volumes, suggesting neither he nor close peers perceived tension at home. No sources have shared observations of changes in Trevor's social life, mood fluctuations, or withdrawal. In absence of first-hand accounts, we can only speculate whether Trevor exhibited signs of anxiety, emotional withdrawal, or expressed anger to friends or adults. If any such behavior occurred, it was either contained or unnoticed. Friends and family saw nothing indicating he might reach a breaking point. This absence of external indicators places investigators in position of asking, where were the signs and why were they not detected? The sequence begins late Sunday evening, when an argument between a 14-year-old and his parents occurred within the family's residence in Middleburg, Florida. Sheriff Michelle Cook's office reports the incident stemmed from some sort of domestic argument between the teen and his parents, which appeared to escalate into violence later that night. https://www.kptv.com WKMG. Shortly after midnight, the teen left the home. No other individuals were present at the scene. https://www.kptv.com WKMG. Records and witness accounts indicate that prior to the incident, approximately 5 separate calls for service had been made at the home, though the specifics of those calls have not been publicly disclosed. Yahoo! In the early minutes of Monday, reconstructive events shows the teen walked approximately 1.4 miles to a nearby church in Fleming Island, arriving in its parking lot. WJXD. During this time, a phone call was placed to a close friend, Kyrie Beeman, in which the teen reportedly said, "He told me he loved me and he was just calling to tell me good night." CBS News. Investigators believe the weapon used belonged to the parents. It was recovered at the home, found inside the residence. https://www.kptv.com, WKMG. The storage method, accessibility, or whether there have been prior concerns regarding the firearm has not been released by authorities, and no public statements detailing safe handling or locking mechanisms have been documented to date. Upon arriving at the church, the teen placed a call to 911 using his cell phone. In the redacted transcript, the caller admonished that he had emptied his pockets, discarded his backpack, and was waiting in the middle of the church, action suggesting he wanted to be visible and compliant. People.com WJXD. He then requested the dispatcher pray for him. The dispatcher responded, "I'll definitely be praying for you, son." People.com WJXD. The call continued for roughly 10 minutes as the dispatcher maintained contact, encouraging the teen to remain calm, assured him deputies had been instructed not to draw weapons, and guided him to listen for their arrival. WJXD, People.com. What mental and emotional state might prompt a young teenager to choose a church, and specifically to seek prayer during his final moments of clarity? Deputies arrived at the Middleburg home as the 911 call was in progress. Inside, they discovered the bodies of the 44-year-old father and 45-year-old mother in the bedroom. https://www.kptv.com, WJXD. Multiple spent shell casings were observed in proximity to the victims. WJXD. Officials confirmed that only the teen and the two parents were present in the home at the time. No outside individuals were identified. https://www.kptv.com, https://www.12onyourside.com. Evidence was logged methodically, with a weapon identified and secured. The scene's condition, including indications of a struggle inside the room, has not been publicly detailed. The church where the teen waited is located about 1.4 miles or a 30-minute walk from the family residence. WJXD. The site was accessible to the public and likely open at the time, given that the teen entered unimpeded. No witness reports have been confirmed regarding bystanders observing the teen at the church, and authorities have not disclosed whether security camera footage from the property was collected. No public statements have revealed whether forensic tests, such as gunshot residue, fingerprints, or DNA, were conducted or what those results indicated. Similarly, no information has been shared about digital evidence, such as cell phone records, text messages, browsing history, or social media activity. In what ways can minute forensic and digital traces either support or challenge the narrative provided, and how might they shape our understanding of intent and sequence? Shortly after the 911 call, law enforcement swiftly located Trevor Lee near the church where he had made the distress call. Deputies took him into custody without any resistance from the teenager. He was not armed at the time, and no struggle occurred. This calm resolution enabled officers to secure the area and begin the investigative process immediately. People.com, https://www.wcjb.com. Trevor is formally charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder. People.com, https://www.wcjb.com. The critical question now is whether he will be tried in juvenile or adult court. In Florida, this decision lies exclusively with the state attorney's office. The state attorney may use a direct file process to move such a case to adult court. This would bypass judicial hearings entirely. Middleburg, the Florida Bar. Florida law provides multiple paths for such a transfer. If the juvenile is 14 or older and charged with violent felony like murder, the state attorney must request certification to adult court, unless the court accepts written reasons not to. Florida Senate. The state attorney may independently file the case in adult court for serious offenses committed by juveniles aged 14 to 17, such as murder. Samus Law Firm. This flexibility has prompted concern about disproportionate prosecutorial power, especially given Florida's high rate of juveniles transferred to adult court in similar cases, nearly 5,000 over 5 years. The Florida bar, details regarding Trevor's legal representation remain undisclosed. It is unclear whether a defense attorney has been appointed or whether an initial plea, such as not guilty, has been entered. People.com. No public records yet indicate the scheduling of hearings, such as adjudicatory or transfer hearings. Florida's juvenile procedural rules allow for mental competency and sanity evaluations, which may be ordered by the court. Assessments can influence rulings on jurisdiction, plea validity, and sentencing. Florida courts. It is unknown whether these steps are underway. In situations involving severe crimes and juvenile suspects, how should the legal system weigh a minor's accountability against their developmental stage and capacity for rehabilitation? Reaction within the community has been marked by disbelief. Trevor's best friend, Kyrie Beeman, expressed shock, calling the Lees probably the best or one of the best families I knew, and noting they treated him like a son. First Coast News, People.com. A cousin described Trevor as a straight-A student and a good kid, indicating no known warning signs to explain the attack. First Coast News. One neighbor living nearby described the incident as devastating, commenting that nothing like this had happened in their neighborhood during their 5 years of residence. Action News Jacks. These reactions underscore the unexpected nature of the crime in the community, with no history of similar violence. Stories emerging from Middleburg residents reflect standing tension. Vigilance born from shock, profound grief, and searching for explanations. The community, otherwise stable and calm, is attempting to grapple with the sudden collapse of what appeared to be a stable family structure. First Coast News, Action News Jacks. Sheriff Michelle Cook emphasized that the incident appears to be isolated and domestic in nature, reassuring the public there is no ongoing threat. People.com, https://www.wcjb.com. Reports include a portion of the 911 call transcript, but much of the content remains redacted. The public knows only fragments, such as that Trevor asked for prayer, discarded his belongings, and stated he was unarmed. People.com. How does the public's demand for full transparency during sensitive investigations balance with the legal system's need to preserve confidentiality for procedural integrity? Investigators continue to process evidence in the case involving 14-year-old Trevor Lee. As of now, law enforcement has not disclosed any newly emerging findings or timelines for completion. The investigative phase remains active, with authorities reconstructing both motive and sequence. People.com, WCJB.com. The 911 call he placed from the church, heavily redacted in official records, remains sealed for now, limiting public insight into his full statements. Questions about motive, preparation, and intent continue to drive investigative scrutiny. People.com, FirstCoastNews.com. No court dates have been publicly announced yet. It is expected that the state attorney's office will schedule pretrial hearings, including a potential waiver hearing to determine whether Trevor's case should proceed in juvenile or adult court. In Florida, transfer to adult court can occur through several mechanisms: voluntary waiver, involuntary waiver, or direct file, and each follows legal protocols. The prosecutor may pursue a direct file, which assigns the case immediately to adult court, especially given the gravity of the charges. Alternatively, a waiver hearing may be required, wherein the court examines criteria such as the seriousness of the offense, the juvenile's maturity, and potential for rehabilitation. FLSenate.gov, FLA Section 985.556, JacksCriminalDefenseAttorney.com, FlarityDefenseFirm.com. Supporting documents, such as school records, any therapy or counseling files, and psychological evaluations, will likely be requested by defense or prosecution to assess developmental context. Expert testimony from mental health professionals may also be introduced in hearings. The matter of redacted materials, especially the full content of the 911 call, remains open under legal procedures. Such evidence may eventually become available through court filings or during proceedings, either in full or with tailored redactions to protect investigation integrity. The public may only see substantive excerpts once the legal process begins. If the case stays in juvenile court, the penalties and process focus on rehabilitation. Juvenile adjudications are typically closed to public record, and the maximum confinement spans only until the juvenile reaches adulthood. If transferred to adult court, Trevor would face sentencing aligned with adult standards. Florida law sets minimum and maximum sentences for second-degree murder. For juveniles tried as adults, life available with parole eligibility after 15 or 25 years. Maximum. Life without parole possible. Wikipedia.org. Murder in Florida law. For adults, sentences may include life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Historical cases in Florida, such as the Nathaniel Brazel case, where a 14-year-old was tried as an adult and sentenced to decades in prison, highlight the legal precedent and controversy such cases provoke. News4jax.com, wire.com, wikipedia.org. These cases illustrate the polarizing nature of sentencing minors as adults and spotlight the evolving debate over juvenile culpability. As the case moves into pretrial and trial phases, media coverage may expand. Possible future developments could include interviews with the family's surviving daughter, statements from legal experts, defense attorneys, and prosecutors, contributions from counseling agencies or juvenile advocacy groups addressing youth mental health and domestic conflict prevention. Coverage may also hinge on legal access to documents like the unredacted 911 transcript, arrest report, or court filings. The investigation continues to reveal limited new facts. Key unresolved areas include the motive behind the shooting, Trevor's mental and emotional state prior to and during the incident, whether charges will be pursued in juvenile or adult court, how sentencing decisions may reflect the tension between public safety and youth rehabilitation. Transparency depends largely on legal custody of the case and procedural constraints. Only through court proceedings will clarity emerge. Could early intervention have changed the outcome? What signs, academic, behavioral, or emotional, might have been overlooked or unreported? Will justice and prevention find a balance when the accused is a minor? How do sentences reflect both accountability and recognition of adolescent development? Ultimately, what does this case tell us about the fragility of family safety and the depth of hidden struggles? What systemic resources exist to identify and address domestic tensions before they escalate? If you found this story as gripping and heartbreaking as we did, don't forget to like this video and share it with others. And if you want to hear more true crime stories that uncover the mysteries behind these tragic events, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest stories, updates, and discussions. Thank you for joining us on this journey to seek justice and explore the truth. Together, we can make a difference. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.